Elisha, and in this video I'll be sharing with you how I transform old t-shirts into two different types of ruched crop tops. Wearing the shirt I'll be transforming, I outline the armhole and neckline to my preferred shape. For the length, I'm marking the midpoint between my belly button and my lower chest to achieve a more ruched look. After extending the new bottom hem, I'm leaving 3 cm of seam allowance for the top edges and 2 cm for the bottom. So I'm gonna cut out these 3 outer lines. As this t-shirt wasn't a very tight fitting one, I'm also gonna reduce a total of 4 cm on the side with markings at each 2 cm point, one portion to trim away and the other portion for seam allowance. With the remaining fabric scraps, I'm cutting a long strip of 3 cm width to make a long strap tie. To sew the strap tie, I'm using a bias tape method. So what I did was to fold both corners into the middle before folding it further into half, and then sew the entire strip. So this is how it will roughly look like after sewing. Moving on to the body piece, I'm folding the bottom up twice, pinning it in place and sewing it down with a straight stitch. Thereafter, I flip the body piece wrong side facing outwards, pin and sew down the side hem. When that's done, it will look something like that. Now, to make the 2 pocket casings, I open up these 2 flaps that were also the side hem's seam allowance and sewed both sides down using a straight stitch. Do take note that I'm only sewing the flaps onto the layer of fabric directly below it. This is how it will look like. Here, I'm making use of a safety pin to help me push the long strap tie into the pockets, starting from the bottom opening to the top and back down via the other pocket opening. Now to finish off with hemming the top, I'm gonna create a slightly different version of the bias tape method with the 3 cm seam allowance we left earlier. So fold inwards along the line, then back up, fold the remaining top into half where the edge meets the folded line, and lastly down again. This part honestly took me quite a while to assemble, so it will be good if you have ready-made bias tapes on hand, or you could also just fold it down twice and sew it like what was done for the bottom hem. Moving on to the next piece, I picked a V-neck t-shirt so that I can keep altering the collar area. Keeping the sleeves on for this top, I'm gonna only need to mark how short I want the crop top to be. Likewise, I'm keeping it slightly longer to achieve a more ruched look. As this piece will have a center ruch, I don't want my crop top to look lopsided, so I made sure the new bottom hem and its 2 cm seam allowance were evenly aligned on both sides before cutting. To make the pocket casing, I measured the point from the V-neck all the way down to the marking, and since both sides of the pocket casing needs to be sewed, I made sure to add an extra 4 cm of seam allowance before cutting. With the remaining fabric, I cut out a long strap of 3 cm width to make the long strap tie. Similarly, I made the strip tie using the bias tape method. Next, with the wrong sides facing outwards, I folded the shirt into half and marked its midpoint along the bottom line before drawing a straight line up to the V-neck point. Here I'm also folding the bottom edge up twice and securing it with pins before sewing it down to hide the cutting. And I'm using the same method to sew the top and bottom edges of the pocket casing. I marked the center line of the pocket casing so I can align it to the center of the top accurately. Then attach it to the body piece and sew the middle line before sewing the two side columns, both with a straight stitch. When that's done, I use the safety pin method again. And make sure both ends are of equal distance. Lastly, I remove the safety pin and tied a simple knot on the ends of the strap, and all done! Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video.